Hi, Errity. Comments on week 4 about setting goals. I gave you comments on the 4.1, the discussion, video discussion, which was good. I said I'm taking off 1 point because you didn't respond to any of the other submissions from the students. The on 4.2, talk about the hotspots program, and you gave a logic model. It was a little bit superficial, but I understand that you don't have a lot of time to sort of really do a very detailed one. Yeah, I think one thing that you didn't include as an input was information. So I know the program particularly requires a lot of information about kind of where crimes occur and what type of crimes, and that's actually important input. Um, problem oriented policing. You sort of had an activity. So there's lots of things that that sort of requires really unpacking as to kind of what goes into that. The most important point on this, I thought, was you mentioned about the potential negative consequences and police brutality, which maybe that's a bit strong, but certainly there might be the perception of harassment from a more aggressive policing practices, depending on how they're carried out, and that could have exacerbate the community tensions. So here, this goes back to kind of the original problem, which is on the one hand you've got a sort of an increase in crime, then and also an increase in community tensions as well with the police. So it hopefully it illustrates that in this case, a sort of a more aggressive approach to policing possibly might be counterproductive, and then so it's one option, but the police would have to consider how do they mitigate the potential for negative repercussions here, maybe through increased communication and engagement with the community in a different way. And that wasn't part of what your original submission was really. So it's that kind of depth of thinking that I'm kind of looking for, which is here's a program that will work, but it might have some negative consequences. So let's think about how do we deal with those in a different way, or is it better to go with a different program? And so it's that kind of fullness that really I really want you to demonstrate. And I think I guess I think you can. I think this is not really um, so necessarily so difficult, but I think sometimes maybe you're just sort of skimping a little bit in terms of what you're putting in the papers. Um, that's my perception. On 4.3, you talked about three types of goals: housing, employment, and the enrichment. So that's kind of okay. That's a useful way of phrasing it or thinking about it. It your writing wasn't quite clear, and I did take a point off this. It wasn't quite clear um, exactly whether these are their goals or whether you are proposing these as goals. So you had this phrase, the review of their goals may include. So I wasn't sure what may include means. I think it's because that you are trying to, because I know that you don't have great access to this organisation anymore, but you're sort of thinking how they might be, which I said would be okay, but it's the language around that, trying to explain that, it wasn't crystal clear to me. The one thing on the goals. So the language of goals and objectives and outcomes can be tricky. People using different terms in different ways. So I might send everybody a glossary about that, but to sort of so that people can refer to. So you mentioned, for example, hiring people, hiring people to improve the enrichment, reach the enrichment goal, and that's right. I mean, the goal is not the hiring. Obviously, that's an instrumental objective that has to be in place for you to achieve a good program with the associated measures. So I think just be careful. So it'd be helpful if you just distinguish between what's sort of the ultimate goal, the final goals, what might be intermediate goals, steps to that point, what might be instrumental goals or objectives, instrumental objectives, points that have to happen to reach that point. That's yeah, because not all goals and not all objectives are the same, of the same type, and of the same importance. And so how you phrase them and how you think about them will be helpful in terms of getting buy-in and getting clarity for the organisation. Anyway, but otherwise, generally they were good submissions. All right.